Welcome to another experience as we get into God's Word to discover His heartbeat for us. I'm so glad that you're tuning in, that you've joined us, taking time out of your day. I pray that today you will find a word of encouragement, a word that'll give you perspective as you navigate life and as you try to figure things out. You know, the other day I was thinking, I have never met a single person in life who felt as if they were ahead of schedule, that they were on schedule, let alone ahead of schedule. Not in their day-to-day plans, I'm talking about in their life plans. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you always feel as if you're behind some way, somehow, not there yet. Everyone feels as if they should be further ahead, that they should have accomplished something. You know, we set up these milestones in life, and we feel as if by a certain age, we should. By the age of 18, I should have moved out. I should graduate by the age of 22, that college should only be 4 years, and you're on the 7-year community college plan. That by the age of 30, you should be married. By a certain age, you should have children. And we have all these different schedules and these milestones that we want, that we expect and we demand of our own lives about. That you should only be married at least only once, let alone twice. They should be debt-free by the age of 40. They should be retired by the age of 50. Then you get to a certain age and you're like, my goodness, I blew it. I'm still dealing with XYZ. I'm still not over this person. I'm still not over that issue. I thought I was over it. I thought I had grown. I thought I was past that. Why haven't I achieved all the goals, all the things that I set out to achieve? I'm not where I feel as if I should be in life. And those thoughts lead us to a place of disappointment, defeat, and you want to stop dreaming. You want to stop dreaming, and you're disappointed with where you're at in life, and it keeps you from experiencing freedom. It keeps you from joy. It keeps you from abundance. It keeps you from living the life that God wants you to be living. And if you and I were to sit at a coffee shop right now, just the two of us, and if I could trace back your life, your timeline of your life, I would find a milestone or a series of unexpected events that took place that brought about disappointment, that you had this expectation and then life happened and you felt as if you were sucker punched in the face and it knocked you out and you have not gotten up yet and you're still down. Here you are. You're a grown man, a grown woman. You have some kids. Maybe you're on your first marriage, second marriage, whatever it is, and you feel as if that one event that took place, maybe it was 5 years ago, 5 months ago, 20 years ago, that one event is the one event that knocked you down and you're still down. You still haven't gotten up. I want to let you know that you may be down, but you're not out. We can't count you out. We can't discount your life. I'm here to tell you that you're not out. And you can get up again. And the Bible has answers. The Bible has answers and solutions and patterns that you can look at that will give you perspective to understand how God works. And over the next 6 weeks, I think it's going to take us about 6 weeks to talk through these things. We're going to look at the life of a man who started out full of hope. He had dreams, he had desire, he had promise, he had favor from his father. But what he experiences in life is a life of robbed promise. Experience gives him the ultimate betrayal from the people that he felt that he could be safe around. Not just once, but several times. And it happens over and over and over again. He gets ahead and life takes him back. We'll see how those life experiences really were used to show that God was with him the whole entire time. I want to say that one more time. That those setbacks, those betrayals, those ultimate disappointments were just evidence that God was with him the entire time. God is in the business of turning disappointments into glorious destiny. We're going to get to know a guy by the name of Joseph. And it's a story that begins in Genesis chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37. And here's the truth about life. Here's the truth about life that I want you to note, to write down. Every disappointment begins with a dream. Every disappointment begins with a dream. Every period of depression and you feeling down and out, it came as a result of you having a dream. And here's about your dream. If you're feeling down, the dream that you had is not a dream that was just a regular dream. It was a dream that God gave you. God gives us dreams. God gives us dreams that are for us, and he puts them in us. And you need to know that God is the ultimate dream giver. He puts it in your heart. And the thing about it, when God puts a dream in your heart, you have no idea how it's going to shape out. You have no idea of any blueprint and step-by-step directions. You don't get a GPS turn-by-turn directions as to how you arrive to your destiny. He gives you an inkling, a little a picture, a little glimpse into your future, and you hold on to that, but you never are given a YouTube tutorial as to how you'll achieve your destiny. There's no clear picture. There's no clear direction. All you need to know is that God has a dream in you, and that dream is for you. Therefore, it's his direction and it's his path. It's his direction and it's his path. So, 3 things that happen to you when God gives you a dream. Number 1, write this down. You will always start out as the underdog. You will always start out as an underdog. Here's how you know that your dream is a dream from God. It is big. It is huge. It is bigger than your life. It both excites you and terrifies you at the same time. Why? Because the circumstances that dream is given in are circumstances that are not conducive to seeing that dream come to pass. That's why it's a dream. That's why people look at you and say, oh, stop dreaming. Because the circumstances that the dream is given to you in are never the circumstances that lead to that destiny, seeming so. And the path that you have to walk in order for you to see that dream come to life is a path that is a difficult path, and it makes you the underdog. Genesis chapter 37, verse 2 reads like this. It says, "This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his 10 half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things that his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children because Joseph was born to him in his old age. So one day Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because his father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him." Now, before we go ahead of ourselves, I want to kind of give you guys a background of the family history behind this family that this dream is delivered to Joseph. Joseph gets this dream and all these things that this destiny that God's putting in his heart. But I want you to understand that dreams are often given to people who come from dysfunctional families. Dreams of destiny, higher destiny, oftentimes come to people who come from dysfunctional families. You may feel as if dreams only happen to people who are born with a silver spoon and people who have the right pedigree. Let me tell you about Joseph's family. First of all, there's Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel, you find them in Genesis chapter 3, chapter 4, somewhere there. Cain and Abel. Cain was the older brother, and he kills his brother Abel. He kills his own brother. Cain has a great-great-grandson. His name is Lamech, and Lamech introduces polygamy. He introduces polygamy, and he also introduces gangster rap because he kills 2 people, and he writes a song about it. It's in the Bible, Genesis chapter 4. Go check it out when you have time. And then there's another guy named Lot. Lot is living in a city called Sodom and Gomorrah, and as he's living there, he receives some visitors who come to visit him, and the people of the city surround his house, wanting to rape his visitors. Instead of him telling them, go away, he offers his daughters to have sex with the men of the city. True story. You can't make this up. Later on, his daughters, this is Lot, his daughters get their father Lot drunk and then become pregnant by him. This is the family from which this dream and this destiny comes from. And so Lot has a cousin. His cousin is Abraham. Abraham plays favorites with his 2 sons. He has a son named Isaac, a son that's born of promise, and another son named Ishmael. And he favors Isaac over Ishmael. Later on, he banishes Ishmael away with his mother, and all kinds of things happen as a result of that. Isaac does the same thing with his children. Isaac favors Esau over Jacob. Jacob, his son, also does the same thing. Jacob favors Joseph over his 10 older brothers. And they end up selling him into slavery. This is the type of family that Joseph is coming from. The marriages in this family are horrible. They are horrible marriages. Horrible. Abraham literally has sex with his wife's personal assistant. That's a nice way of saying it. He has sex with his wife's personal assistant. Isaac and Rebekah fight over which one of their boys is going to get the family blessing. Jacob marries two women, has 2 wives, and then he has side relationships with his wife's personal assistants. Reuben sleeps with his father's concubine, his father being Jacob. Jacob had concubines. You can't make this stuff up. Judah, one of Jacob's sons, also has some situations in that he sleeps with his daughter who pretends to be a prostitute in order to seduce her own father, into a relationship. And you thought your family was weird. This is the family that Joseph is born into, and this is the person that God gives us dream to. God hadn't given Joseph his 2 dreams yet he's the underdog. He's the youngest in the family. He has another brother later on, but we'll talk about that later on. He tends his father's flocks, but he actually works for his brothers who hate him. They can't even say anything nice to him. Their father makes it clear to everyone that Joseph is his favorite. Jacob makes Joseph a coat of many colors. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the ancient language, the actual way that you'd pronounce a coat of many colors is Gucci. He gives his son a Gucci, basically, right? And the brothers can't say anything nice to him. In other words, Joseph is in an environment of haters. Nothing but haters. The odds are stacked against him. He's the underdog. God loves the underdog. We all love to watch movies and watch sports teams that are the underdog because we root for the underdog. And if you feel like you're the underdog, I want you to know that there are people in this community that are rooting for you, and God of heaven is also on your side because God always favors and loves the underdog. When God gives you a dream, you always start out as the underdog. Point number 2. You'll always be criticized by those who are jealous and don't understand you. You will always be criticized by those who don't understand you, those who are jealous of you. And here's the thing about it. I want you to understand this. Those who criticize you and are jealous of you and don't understand you are generally not people who are far away from you. It's usually the people that are closest to you. It's people that you share blood with. It's people that you eat dinner with. It's people that are close to you that don't understand what God's doing on the inside of you. So when you go after your dream, they will unintentionally try to disrupt your dream because you're disrupting their comfort zone. Most people invest all their life and put a lot of effort at being and staying average. And then you come along with a God-sized dream. Get ready to be criticized by average people who have average thinking. Who do you think you are, they'll say. What makes you feel as if you can do that? What gives you the right to think bigger and dream bigger? Do you know where you came from? Do you know where your family's from? Do you know how dysfunctional your family is? The criticism is coming. Be prepared for it. The criticism is coming. The hate is coming. You are surrounded by haters, and haters are often people who love you the most. And they'll say that they support you. But really, your dream is a disruption to their average. I want to throw this out there. What is the one thing that you could say about your life where if I was to begin a sentence like this, they all laughed at me when I said I would? How would you finish that sentence?
When I think about that, I think about a certain aunt in my life who anything that I've pursued, she's always critiqued on and almost like has elevated herself in a way to make me feel diminished. So that's what I think of when I think of that story.
Right.
It takes me to there.
Yeah, but what specific thing, like you can look at a dream that you had or a dream that you're still working on that you know that like you feel like intimidated to even share. Like, you know, there's some things that you kind of like downplay, like, oh, I really want to do this, but if I say that this is exactly specifically what I'm trying to do, it's going to come off as if like you're a little bit sedity. Is that even a word? Right?
For me,
yeah,
I guess it would be, and I don't think I've shared this with many people, but I believe that God's called me to on platform to encourage women, whether that's through speaking, through devotions, books, or whatever.
Right.
But definitely like an influence for sure.
Right, right. And what makes that so like scary, exciting, and terrifying at the same time?
Man, it's scary because if I speak of it, I actually have to do it.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, there's that, and also it's like a big crazy dream where I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna get there. So,
Randy, how about you?
I think for me, my immediate family, they're very supportive. But then, I have my dad's side who I really don't know much, and they're not for women speaking at all. And I think for me, it's like, that's what God's called me to do, is to encourage women, and that is on the platform. But for them, it's like, no,
Right.
that's impossible. We don't do that. You're in the back. You sit in the back. You're in your husband's shadow. Like,
I want to keep you confidently in the back.
Yes.
Confident and beautiful.
No, not at all. So the fact that I work alongside my husband and not behind him is like, oh, wow, you're bold.
Right.
You're extra. And it's like, no, this is what God's called me to do, despite what you believe.
Let me ask you about that. Like, do you think it's like a dynamic of them being intimidated by, does it speak to their insecurity of you having a husband that's supportive enough to have you alongside him? Or like, where do you think that level of like, what are you doing? Or you're bold, that's a little extra. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it comes from dysfunction. Like, that side of my family is very dysfunctional. Marriages failed, babies out of wedlock. And so, like, they're waiting for something to happen. Like, I swear they have a family group chat, and they'll, like, wait for something. Like, when I got married to Kevin, it was like, wait, she got pregnant how soon? They were, like, trying to calculate
right.
to see, like, to put something on me. Like, oh, no, she isn't this saint, which I never claimed to be. But they're just waiting for my downfall because of their dysfunction and their insecurity. So
It seems as if you don't have to go too far to find haters.
no, not far at all.
No, just keep them right next to you.
I love that. I love the verse. One of my favorite verses, the 23rd Psalm. He says, he prepares a table for me in the presence of my enemies. I'm going to eat in front of the people that hate. Yeah, Janelle, you're a big dreamer, inspirer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of the most painful things about pursuing a dream is really wanting to bring alongside those people that you love so much, but they're not coming with you. They're actually like pushing against you, wanting you to fail so they can say, I told you so.
Right.
So, I mean, that's been my experience for a long time, but especially recently, I've had some really incredible things happen in my business, and it's a little painful to know that I don't have the support or even the excitement from people that I would hope would be happy for me.
Right. What does that do to your dreams? What does that do to your action, to your ability to push through? Or is it like, so what? Some will, some won't. I'm going to keep moving. Or like, how do you work through all that?
For me, I mean, I just have learned, which is a little bit sad, but it's just what I need to do, is that they're not the people that I go to when I need celebrating. Because even the strong women need someone to encourage them sometimes. It's hard to lead sometimes. It's hard to lead a lot of people and be upfront sometimes. And I just know that those people that love me so much, they just don't love me in that way. They can't be my support in that. And so unfortunately I have to, I can't share those things with them because it just is really painful.
Right.
It doesn't stop me. I guess maybe because I'm so used to it at this point, I just know to not, but the sting is still there.
Right. Ever felt like the underdog? Anybody? Like being the underdog, having the circumstances not set up for you to succeed. The stats show that you will not make it this far. Like, what does that underdog feeling look like in your world? If you were to like surmise it or describe it.
That was me last month.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of my month in my business, I really just felt a tug to go all the way in, all the way wild, and tell my people, like, this is where I feel like God is moving us to. It's illogical. it's a little crazy. It was literally doubling what I was doing,
Right.
which is not normal. Like in all 6 years, it's not a normal thing. And I was honest and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And my big dream required my people to also have big dreams. And it was like the most incredible, God-sized, miraculous,
Right.
coolest thing that's ever happened.
Right.
And it happened. And all I can say is that I just knew that's where God was leading us. And I just felt like when I was like, the numbers aren't adding up. The numbers aren't adding up. On the last day, I felt like God was like, hang in there. I'm going to blow your mind.
Right.
And it was like unbelievable. Not just for me,
Right.
but for my squad, which is like the coolest thing too. So definitely last month, what like blew my mind.
I like specifics, you know. I know. I hate it when people are talking about, you know, God did something made big, and you're just kind of like, how big was
don't know,
it?
like, how detailed do you want me to-
Just be real, like be real, like so. I mean, like you just said something. You said that, like, you know, 6 years of you doing your business, 6 years got you to a certain level, right? 6 years of hard work, 6 years of breaking records, 6 years of putting in time. Now you're 6 years into it, and now you want to do what you've done in 6 years in 30 days. Yeah. That is a big, hairy, audacious
Yes.
goal. So, and now in order to do that, you have to you have to let the people in your organization, in your team, also capture that same vision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm saying. Like specifically, like what does that look like? Because that's huge. That's
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah, what does it look like? Like it's huge. 6 years and then 30 days to do what you did in 6 years. And most people don't. Getting to that next leap, the further you go, is always harder. It's kind of like when you're losing weight. You know, you lose the first pounds easy.
Yeah.
You know, but then when you're trying to like maximize, it's
So yeah, it's actually, so to be more detailed, in my company, I skyrocketed to a top position in my company, third from the top in about a year, like that.
Right.
And then after that, it was kind of like this.
Right.
I had some babies, focused on my babies. I wasn't as focused there. And then there came a point where we saw other people doing it. And we're like, well, if they could do it,
right.
we could do it.
Right.
And so it just built so much belief the more we saw other people doing it. So we're like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And so the thing is, though, is that with that distance, you have to push through those feelings of failure, those feelings of disappointment, those feelings of like, I'm not good at this, or maybe I'm never going to get there. Maybe I thought that dream was crazy. Right. And you have to push through all, it's like resistance training almost. You're not just running, you're like running with resistance, right?
Right.
And
the wind is against you all the way.
yes, the whole time. But it was like crazy breakthrough. And literally every single day at 10 a.m., me and all my people would pray. My girls, we would pray, we would sing Waymaker, and we would sing Do It Again. And every single day, that was our anthem. And we would pray for people by name. I'd look up my people's pictures on Facebook, and I'd name them, and I'd tell my girls the story of how God used this to heal them, and how God used this to bring money into their bank account. And it was just a collective run together.
Right.
And the thing is when you're bold in your faith, it inspires somebody else, and then they're bold, and then you're mutually encouraged, and then you're running this race together.
Right.
So it was the most incredible thing, and we're still in that space.
Right.
It's just really cool to see.
Right. So yeah, you got critics. Everybody has a critic. One thing I've learned more in a tangible way in the last few years is that if you're ever going to lead, you have to be prepared to have people who dislike you for no reason and will never tell you. They'll smile on your face, and that's what they do. And you'll have those people that the haters are there, and then you also have some that are very, very close to you. And what you just described, you said every morning, you said 10 o'clock in the morning, you'd get together with your team and you'd pray specifically, right? So I'll throw this to you, Randy, or Sandra, if you can chime in. What does it look like when you are in the presence, surrounded by haters, family members, people close to you, people who are in your community that are they're not rooting for you? how do you build that support system that reminds you that you plus God means that you're the majority? That there's more of those, more power that is working for you than working against you.
Well, for me, I'm in this season where I'm a firm believer of like, you have to be the one to encourage yourself. You have to, because you're not going to always have that support. Right. Even in marriage, sometimes like your husband can be busy doing whatever and your family can be busy doing whatever. So there's going to be moments when you're by yourself and it's just you and God. And so you have to learn how to encourage yourself and just to dive into that word and pray and be like, God, I know you have me. Right. And I always encourage people to do that. I'm like, you have to be your number one fan. You have to be the one who's talking in the mirror saying, you got this, you can do it. You have to. Right. Because people are not going to always do that for you. And if you can't do that for yourself, how are you going to really expect others to do that for you?
True.
So
True.
I believe that if you want people to be there to encourage you, to support you, you have to reach out for it, and you have to be able to be vulnerable to speak the things that are on your heart, the dream, whatever it is. Like for me, like I do have like a support system of like women that I've reached out to specifically to pray for certain things, and that when I'm feeling low, when I'm feeling discouraged, I can reach out to them and ask them for prayer for whatever it is. And definitely like what Randy was saying, like, you do have to also show up for yourself as well. And sometimes it's hard. And so it's always great to have those people like in your group who can show up for you when you can't.
Right. Verse number 5 says this: one night, Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more. So they already hated him, but when he told them the dream, they hated him more than ever. He said, "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the field tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine." His brothers responded, "So you think you'll be our king, do you? Do you actually think that you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and the way he talked about them. I want to pause there. The way he talked about them. Let me tell you something. When you are in the presence of haters, don't let them mute the dream that's on the inside of you. But also be seasoned in how you talk about it. He's 17 years old, so as a teenager, you probably have a different mindset as to like how you talk about things. Verse 10 says, he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers, but his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he asked. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you?" But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. The real point is found in verse 11. But while his brother were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. When others find out about your dream, you'll face criticism. It'll come from their own insecurity. They'll wonder, what do you mean? You mean you're going to reign over us? You mean you're going to be higher than us? See, that's the tall poppy syndrome that exists in every family. It exists in every society. It exists in every culture. The people around you don't want to see you elevate higher. Unless they've got a spirit that's inside of them that's cheering you on. But most average people, do not want to see you ascend. Their insecurity will come in the form of jealousy. It will come in the form of lack of understanding. I want you to be prepared for it, to know that it is coming. Do not be shocked. Do not be shocked when it comes. Do not be shocked when you have an idea, when you have a dream, that idea for that app, that idea for starting that restaurant, that idea to take your family to a new city and start all over, that idea to start a new business, that idea for a new career, that idea to go back to college. That idea is going to come as a threat to those who want to keep you in their average mean. Third point, you will be delayed. You will be delayed, and it's only the first of many delays. You will be delayed, but it's only the first of many delays. Dreams don't happen overnight. You may get a dream in a night, but they don't come to pass overnight. They come with detours and delays. And a dream without a detour is not a dream. That's a devil scheme. A dream that comes from God. The pattern of Scripture from Genesis to Revelation, every dream that was a God-given dream came with detours, delays, and disappointment. But hold on, because God is building character so that when that dream becomes your destiny, you have the character to handle it. A delay does not mean no. It just means that God's not ready for you to do that yet. A delay does not mean no. It just means not yet. So, Joseph has to go to Shechem, as the story goes. He has to go to Shechem. And I want to say this to you. Don't get shook when you get to Shechem. It's just God shaping you for what he's preparing you for. Jacob's older brothers go to Shechem to tend sheep, their sheep over there. And when they go to Shechem, there's a sketchy part of history that has taken place in that some time prior to this, their sister Dinah had been sexually assaulted and raped in Shechem, and the older brothers went back to Shechem against their father's wishes, and they enacted revenge on the men of Shechem. And so there was a rivalry and tension between the people of Shechem and Jacob's family. So here are the brothers and the sons of Jacob going to tend their sheep back in a place of violence. And so their father, Jacob, is worried. He's like, wait a minute, what's going on? I heard that the brothers have gone to Shechem. Joseph, do me a favor. Go and check on the welfare of your brothers. And so Joseph goes on a 50-mile journey to Shechem to go check on his brothers. When he gets there, he discovers that they're actually not in Shechem, but they're 15 miles further in a town called Dothan. Now here's what I want to say about that. When you have a dream, dreamers who enter into their destiny are people who are willing to go the extra mile. He could have very well said, you know what, my dad said to go to Shechem. I came to Shechem, I didn't find them. They said that they're in Dothan, and so I'm going to turn back and go tell my dad that they're not in Shechem, but they're in Dothan. But no, Joseph, a dream getter, a destiny receiver, is a person who goes the extra mile. That's for somebody. That's for free. It's not even in the notes. Goes the extra mile to go check on his brother's welfare. And so when he gets there, we read, when Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached, they made plans to kill him. Here comes the dreamer, they said. Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. You see what the threat was, his dreams. They hated him because of his dreams. So here's Joseph at the age of 17 thrown into a pit. And in my imagination, I'm thinking that Joseph is probably thinking to himself, this is not how my dream becomes my destiny. This right here in that pit, and when you feel as if all your hopes are gone, everything that you've desired has been taken away from you, when you don't know what's going to happen, that's where most people quit. That's where most people say it's too hard. That's where most people say it's too scary. That's where most people say, you know what? God has abandoned me. They think that God has left them, not knowing that that delay and that detour is the portal that God has prepared to put them to the palace. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. The setup, the setback is nothing more than a setup for the step up. And when God gives you a dream, you'll start out as an underdog. You'll be criticized, and you'll experience delays and detours. But I want you to remember these three things. Number one, you plus God are always the majority. You plus God are always the majority. God is more interested in saving you through your problems than saving you from your problems. I'll say that again. God is more interested in saving you through your problems, not saving you from your problems. That passage, that middle passage of your dreams is where you finally get to know who He is, and you finally get to know who you are. God doesn't do shortcuts. God does not grant prayers to lottery winners. Hello, somebody. He won't take you around the odds. He won't take you under the odds. He won't take you over the odds. He'll take you through the odds. Because it's through the odds that you build the character necessary, where you learn to depend on him as your source. He takes you through the odds that are stacked against you to surprise everyone around you so that you may know and that they may know that his power is real. Number 2, if God says yes, nobody can tell you no. If God says yes, there's no one that can tell you no. Don't worry about the criticism. Don't worry about the hate. Don't worry about the dream snatchers. Don't worry about all those people that want to tell you that things can't work out, that this is too big, that you don't deserve this. Don't worry. If God has given you a yes, 10,000 no's don't matter. Keep looking for God's yes in your life. God picks the direction, and he chooses the destination, and he prepares the path for those who walk it. Your current reality may not match it. Your current status may not match it. Your current education may not qualify you. But God has given you a yes. Go after it. Don't let people who want you to have a reality check make you check your dream in. Don't let people who want you to have a reality check make you check your dream in. God says yes. Don't let them make you say no. Finally, delays are God's way of preparing you to fulfill his dream in you. Delays are God's ways of preparing to fulfill his dream in you. Remember how Joseph had 11, Jacob had 11 sons, right? The text says that he had 11 sons. Joseph had a younger brother that came about several years later who wasn't born yet when he first received the dream. He wouldn't come till later on. So Joseph has 2 dreams, right? He has 2 dreams. The first one is about the bundles of wheat. And here's the second one. The second dream went like this. Soon Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. Listen, I've had another dream. The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me. The sun, moon, and the 11 stars bowed low before me. 11 stars. Okay, so in that culture, the sun would be the father, the moon would be the mother, and the stars would be the sons, right? So watch what's happening. This is God prophetically telling Joseph that there'll be another brother. What the first dream was telling him of his future, and the second dream was telling him of the timing. It will be after this other brother has come along. So the first dream predicted the future, gave him a future, but the second dream gave him the timing of the dream. That dream said it's not going to happen right now. It's not going to happen right away. There's going to be some time that's going to pass. There's going to be another star that's going to come into the family. So Joseph, as a teenager, is sold into slavery. And Genesis 37, verse 36 says this. It says, meanwhile, the Midianite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was the captain of the palace guard. I'm going to end this at this point, and next week, we'll pick it up right where I've left it off. Next week, we're going to learn how to train your life, how to train yourself for the fight of your life. Don't lose hope when the dream doesn't come overnight. You may be down, but you're not out. You may be the underdog, but you plus God makes you the majority. You may be criticized, but if God says yes, nobody can tell you no. You're going to face detours and delays, but it's God's way of preparing his path for you. God is up to something. It's so cool hearing you say that, and all of you are mothers. And I know that it is very popular in culture, I believe. I've heard it said, potentially, ostensibly, that motherhood means a delay to your dream. Like you have a child, two children, 3 children, whatever it is, and those are the things that stack up to now you can't pursue your thing because these little ones who you love very much are the delay and the detour. You know, how do you navigate and how do you encourage others to, because as a man, I'd say that that's not a delay to your dream, but I don't want to, project that and impose that if it's not the case. How would you encourage yourself or encourage others around that idea?
I think for me, looking at it in a different light, because I think for me, my girls were a part of my dream. Instead of thinking like, oh, it's going to delay me from, no, it's been a part of mine. And I think, like Sandra said, I'm probably in that underdog stage right now. I was like, with Confident and Beautiful, I was like on fire. And then I got married, had kids. And I kind of felt that way, like, dang, everything's going to be delayed. But God used my daughters and my marriage to teach me so much.
Right.
And now I'm at a place where I'm like getting back into the game with Confident and Beautiful. And I'm like, wow, I know so much more than I did before. I'm no longer this single woman. I'm now a mother and a wife. So now my circle is way bigger, of women who I can influence because now I've experienced it. Right. And so what I used to think was a delay was like, no, this was part of God's dream for me. So now it's like I embrace that in such a different way than I used to. And so now I encourage other women who are going to become moms or wives, like, hey, this is a part of it and it's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing. Yeah. And take that time to be with your kids. Take that time to be with your husband. Yeah. Don't just try to be like, I need to get to my dreams, because you will get there.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So.
And I can speak because I got married later. So I lived a very full life before I married my husband. I traveled the world. I got my degrees. I got my house. I got all the things except my man. Right. And I mean, I felt like I had all the things. And so in my old age, I just had a very monumental birthday. I do feel like at this point in my life, I can look back and say it's just seasons of time. Like they're just seasons of time where God is using you in this space and this purpose, and maybe he'll continue to use you, or maybe it will pivot and things will change. But it's not, kids, I live a different life now, obviously, than when I did when I was single, but my kids are the reason why I'm pursuing these big dreams. Right. Like it shifted for me, and that's why I'm doing the big things, because I have a different perspective as a mom.
Right. You guys talked about, having children and that not being a delay, not being a detour, not being, something that takes you away from your dreams. But there are some single women out there. And I remember you being single, us having conversations of, by now I should be here. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't necessarily like, you traveled the world and you did some very amazing stuff, but there's always this other part that's not catching up, and so I just, if you could encourage some women out there that are like waiting, and the clock is ticking. I just don't want to leave it just hanging there, because, they people can just tune out and say, this isn't speaking to me, but I think that,
I used to be that. I'd get so irritated, like, what about the single people? And in my singleness, I feel like I lived it up, and there was a lot of pain because I felt like I wasn't where I thought I should be yet. And especially in the church, a lot of people get married fairly young, and I was not one of those people. So I lost track of how many roommates I had because they just kept getting married.
Right. Like, you didn't want to be a bridesmaid anymore.
I think I will hit double digits in the bridesmaid dress category before I get married. And I did. I think I was in 10 or 11 weddings or something. Right. Pauline was one of my roommates, got married. One of the last weddings before I finally met Scott. But for the single ladies, I would just say this: don't settle. Don't settle because it's not worth it. Because you can be alone in a marriage. And it's better to be alone with Jesus.
Hey.
And wait on the one God has for you. And just do the thing. Do all the things you can do when you're single. Like, you could do everything that you want to do when you're single. I used to thought I was so restricted then. But, really, I could do whatever I want. And anybody that knows Scott knows he's the best husband, the best dad. Like, I couldn't ask for anyone that is more servant-hearted and loving and caring. And I'm so thankful that I waited.
Right.
Can I chime in on this though? Because as someone who got married young and someone who was very new to the faith, yeah, I totally agree with like, don't settle and like really take this time to discover yourself, because I am in a place where I am married and he has his own set of dysfunction and I have my own set of dysfunction and we have kids and I'm barely starting to discover me. And we are both come together with burdens that we have to work through together versus, you know, having been healed from past trauma, past pain, and not carrying those things into your marriage, because it's real and it's hard. And it's hard when you have to do it with somebody who you thought you knew but you don't know.
Right.
And then you've got kids.
Right.
So,
But I will say age does not mean you're healed,
yes.
because we have our own set of issues because we got married older, because my husband was married before me, you know, that like, that's a whole nother cluster of things. And so I do believe that like God calls some people to get married young, and he calls some people to get married old, and he calls some people to be single. And it's just, that's the path God has for you. Like your healing journey is different than my healing journey. And it's hot and messy and, you know, a cluster. But if you press into God, like God will use that, whatever season he's called you to be in.
Destiny, the dream of a great destiny is given to a family that's broken. A person, and we are oftentimes very, very holier than thou. Our family's perfect and everything. But you peel the layers back, you know, you'll discover, oh, that's not really my dad. That's my uncle. Or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you discover all these weird things about where you're coming from. And so, Sandra, I would say that, like, you know, you guys are literally, there's blessing in every station. And one of the greatest blessings is to grow up together and to heal together, as opposed to grow up and then having to go heal on your own, because that creates a whole nother thing in of itself. So,
Totally agree with you. I am starting to see the fruit of that right now.
Yeah.
No, I would agree with the ladies. I would just say wait until God tells you. And it may not be the kind of person that you thought. Because if...
Yes. Let me get my organ. So, because it looks like you're about to preach now.
No, but I had my list. And here comes Kevin. And I'm like, no. And I remember being in the car and I was like, I don't know if I was with my ex or not. I don't know. But I was in the car and I'm like, God, who's my husband?
Right.
And Kevin's name ran across my head. And I said some words that I can't say right now, but I was like, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. And lo and behold, I'm married to him. And it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. Yeah. And I tell girls that now. I'm like, you don't know if it's going to come in this package that you've written out and that you've said, God, this is what I want. But he's not going to always bring you what you want. He'll bring you what you need.
Yes.
Because what I wanted, Lord, thank you for not giving that to me.
Hallelujah.
Yes.
I'm glad you gave me what I needed because, man, it's the best thing ever.
He gives you a dream. But the directions and the path to get to that dream are never what you think.
Right.
And the disappointment and the feeling down and out is usually because you have a prescribed path that you feel as if you should be going. You have a description of what it should look like. And so when you get knocked down, when you get thrown into that pit, when it arrives in a package that you weren't expecting, you feel as if God has left you, you know?
Right.
So it's very important that we get the dream, but we allow God to say, hey, you direct the path.
Exactly.
You give us the steps forward. So thank you guys. This was rich. Now I can't end this without telling you about another son who was favored by his father. John 3:16 said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, his beloved son. And he sent his son to go check on the welfare of his brothers on this planet. There had been some strain that had taken place on this planet. Some sketchy things called sin had taken place on this planet. And there his son would be betrayed, would be thrown into a pit for 3 days and 3 nights. But on the third day, he'd resurrect His blood would be presented to the Father, and that blood would be to atone for our sins. I want to let you know that the picture of Joseph is a picture of Christ, who also was a favored son, and whose life, whose blood was for the salvation of all the nations, and more specifically you. If you're watching this right now, it's not by coincidence that you're watching this, that you're hearing this. God wanted to put you in this place so that you can finally step into life and live the dream that He has had for you in eternity past. And all you do is believe in what His Son has done and what Jesus did on the cross, in Him being resurrected on the third day. And by believing in Him, God's dream for your life, for eternal life, enters into a place of destiny. Let me pray for you. God, I thank You for this time. I thank You for all the people who've joined in. And Lord, I pray for that person right now who is finding You because they've been found in You. I pray that their dreams may be dreams that come from You. That they may walk in the dream that You had for them in eternity past and may experience the God life. In Jesus' name I pray.